You've got one, I've got one, we all have one. What's your story? Today we are going to hear from Cadet Cindy Roehrig, and she's going to share a little bit about her story and how an encounter with Christ transformed her life. So welcome, Cindy. It's great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your early life. We don't really know a lot about you. So
yeah.
Fill us in.
I grew up in a low economic home. Didn't grow up in the Salvation Army, didn't grow up in church really. I'm very much come from a typical Aussie bogan household where alcohol and illegal substances, we'll put it like that, is common.
Yep.
It's an everyday occurrence. And so I grew up in a very, I guess, sheltered life in the sense of all I knew was the life that I had. So I didn't grow up with any understanding of a God or who God was or even what creation was. It was just more if I got to see the next day, that was a blessing in itself. And I wouldn't have used the word blessing because I don't know what that even meant back then, but it would have just been I lived for each day rather than living for life. So that was pretty much my whole upbringing. Of course, I faced trials and made some really bad choices, but in the end, I made some really good ones as well.
So what happened? At what point did you kind of go, this life just isn't enough? There's got to be something more. Like the good old alpha question. There's got to be more to life. What kind of happened to make you start looking at things differently?
Yeah, so it was actually, I didn't look at things differently until I hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
So I definitely hit the pits. I had gotten to the point where I didn't think life was worth living anymore. And without going in, I guess, into too much detail, it was more, I tried to take my life 3 times. And when all 3 of those were failed attempts, I literally stood in the middle of my room one night with music blasting and just screamed and cried and said, listen, if there is someone or anything out there, you need to find me, you need to help me, because I can't do this anymore. And then I was met by someone who's actually now a Salvation Army officer in a place where I don't think you'd normally go, oh yeah, that's a normal place to see them. And it was in the middle of a nightclub. And I wasn't ready to then face that anyway. And so I ran that night. But a few weeks later, at a New Year's Eve house party, that same person was there. And it can't be coincident because it's such a small house party as well. And we literally spent 4 hours that night sitting against a brick wall, just talking life and hope and that there is more. Yeah. And I don't think I was quite there yet. I was still scared. I was unsure of what was happening, and I was really just in a lot of hurt and pain. But as I was leaving that probably early morning by then, the person actually said to me, so I'll see you at church one time. And I was like, oh, maybe. And followed by the line, I'll pick you up Sunday. And so it's not an overnight fix in that sense. So yeah, I attended church and I went with her. But a lot of the time I was attending because it was a bit better than what I had previously. And there was a little bit of hope there. But without doing actually a lot of internal thinking and a lot of internal work, there wasn't a lot more happening. It was just a lot safer environment in that sense.
Yeah, so I imagine a real sense of actually belonging somewhere that felt safe and secure made a big difference then.
Yeah, it was about having stability. It was something that was stable rather than something that I never know what to expect. Although I went home to that, there was always that hope that I knew that I could return to some constant, some stability.
Yeah. And so what then was the turning point? So if you were attending church and you're going to this safe place kind of thing, hanging around these safe people, at what point did Jesus kind of like crash into your life?
Yeah, so actually I was at I was convinced, and I went on to a creative arts camp, and considering I kind of tell people I don't have a creative bone in my body, it was very interesting that I ended up on a creative arts camp.
Yeah.
But it was actually at the end of that camp, and because I was highly addicted to drugs and alcohol still, and it was pretty much the last night there. I just felt this real feeling that actually there was someone with me, and there is more. And like I've got, I guess I've got coverance within that and sort of thing. So I actually went up to someone that I'd met that weekend and trusted and said, listen, can you pray with me? And it was in that moment where I took that action. And I think that, like, because every time before that, it was people were taking me places and people were asking me to do stuff. And so I was agreeing to that. But it was in the moment where I actually took action and went, actually, can you pray for me? I actually see something different. And it was in that moment that I actually had something miraculous happen, and from then I actually didn't have another cigarette past that, for instance, and then I worked on everything else. But it was in that moment where cravings had gone. It was almost like where I relied on them for filling in the gaps. God was now that.
Yeah.
And it was God brought a longer peace than what sitting down to have a cigarette brought me. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think you raise a really good point there, that until we actually accept it and take action ourselves, God can do all the poking and the prodding through others and through other things that he wants. But until we actually acknowledge it and until we actually accept and take action, then nothing actually is going to change. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's, I was talking to you the other day actually, and I think it's that same analogy, like, although I was going to church and I was sitting in church, that didn't make me a follower of Christ. It didn't make me a Christian. Just as much as, if I go and sit in my garage, I'm not going to be a car. I can sit there and I can make the noises and I can pretend I'm one and I can do all the right things.
Yeah.
But until I make that internal decision where I take action and I make a difference and I make a change, that's when things are going to change and they're going to look up and you're going to see some hope. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but also worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So you said from that point, you didn't have another cigarette.
Yeah.
How else was your life transformed, and how, so inwardly, how was your life transformed? And then the outward kind of expression of that, how would you describe that?
Yeah, so it was just kind of like a new leash on life. So I think inwardly, like where it was living day by day, it turned into a more, I want to live this life.
Yeah.
And I had something to live for.
Yeah.
Like I needed other people to know that this was an option for them and it's viable and it's, there's just so much hope in it.
Yeah.
I think outwardly, I guess I think even like my whole carrying of myself, like it goes from a slump to actually I can look up. I'm not looking to the ground anymore. Because like I know that like I used to look to the ground because it's don't make eye contact with people, like let's just get through the day and we'll be fine. But now it's let's make eye contact, let's have conversations, and let's maybe even be that happiness someone needed today, like say hi to people. Before it was even in that hope of someone would say hi to me even though I didn't make contact. It was if I didn't approach them, then it was okay because then no one noticed me, and if no one notices me, then I don't need to deal with my stuff. Where after that it was notice me and I'm going to deal with my stuff, and we can actually do this together, and I can be an example to others in that space as well. It's about being able to walk around and being able to say, actually, there is more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. That's an awesome story. And now you're in college. You're about to move out of college. And for those who haven't heard, Cindy and Henry at the start of next year will be moving to Inverell in New South Wales. So that's really exciting. And we'll be praying for you as you transition from the college life into being a Corps officer. Really exciting times. Is there anything else you want to add to your story? Well, I'm sure you will continue to add to your story, but is there anything else you want to add today to share with everyone else?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just what I've learned over the years the most is that reflection is really hard to do, but it's something that we need to do to be able to see the difference.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more about I can let all the negative stuff kind of get me down day to day. But if you take that time, even for 10 minutes a day, to actually stop and look where you've actually come from, you will see the difference, and then you'll see how much more worth it is to keep going.
Yeah.
When you stop and when you don't take the time to stop and look back, all you focus on is the negatives at the moment, but actually look at the positives that have come from that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Cindy. It's been a joy to have you sharing with us today. If you have any questions, or if you are struggling with any of the things that Cindy might have talked about, if any of those things have been a struggle in your life, or if you're simply asking that question of is there something more than just the life I'm living, then we want to encourage you to make contact with us. We would be happy. We would love to have a chat with you and share a little bit about our story and how the difference that Jesus made in our lives can be the same for you. So please get in touch. Thanks again, Cindy, for being with us today.
Thank you.